Thank you very much. As he said, I'm Clarke Katz, IT manager of La Tortilla Factory. And I'm going to talk today about how we have been improving our plant operations, reducing downtime. First, a little background about our company. We were founded in 1977, and we started with just flour, tortillas, and then we eventually grew into flour and corn. And we are the maker of the world's first fat-free tortilla, the first low-carb tortilla, the first organic corn tortillas, and we also are the maker of the world's largest tortilla in the Guinness Book of World Records. We also made the first gluten-free tortilla. And today we produce about 1.5 million tortillas a day in a single plant in Santa Rosa, California. We're perennially a best place to work in Sonoma County, in the North Bay area of San Francisco. We always maintain very high ratings from the American Institute of Baking, and we have our single facility with 7 production lines. So we faced a problem in our plant of low visibility. And what we had is a lot of different tortilla lines that were made in different eras and with different sets of equipment in them, and none of them were connected together or to the network, and we weren't capturing any data electronically. So we were writing a lot of stuff down on paper, and we were then having managers, production managers, transcribe these paper notes into spreadsheets, which would then be produced into reports for management to look at, typically 5 days later or so. So we found that it was really a long time between an issue and the time that management would start asking questions about the issue, and trying to figure out how they could prevent it from happening in the future. So, we knew that there was some room to improve, and so we had to figure out how we were going to get about doing that. So what we decided to do was to go digital and remove paper from the plant floor and have everybody be either entering in data or have the machines report their data directly into a centralized system, which we could then use to provide real-time data to the operators and management staff, and then we could also use that same data for reporting later. So what we wanted to do was reduce unplanned downtime, reduce product giveaway, reduce waste, improve line performance, and improve our overall KPI reporting so that we could make better decisions. So we started with basically the beginning of the line where we mix flour and water. So we had standards that would say, X amount of water goes in this batch, but because flour is a constantly changing ingredient, the operators, the mixers, would have to vary the amount of water that they would put in seasonally or based on the weather or whatever. So we weren't really capturing how much water they were putting in. They were sort of self-reporting, and they were often inaccurate or late. So we had no visibility in real time how much water they were putting in, and a lot of times they were just writing down the standard rather than actually measuring how much water they put in. So we created a screen that takes the readings right off of the water meters for each mixer and reports those into the screen and then compares the result to our standards. And if there's enough water, it's green. And if there's not enough, it's red. It's just real simple. I lost my picture. There it is. So operator takes, so for the dough ball scales, basically the idea here is we have dividers that divide the dough into small balls, which we then press into tortillas. And the deal here is that we want to measure the balls as they're coming out of the divider so we can figure out whether or not we're on target. So as the dough balls come down out of the divider, the operator will periodically take out a set of bolitas, we call the dough balls, and weigh them on a scale, which then reports straight into the historian server. And then we track those weights individually here for each one, and then it plots the average weight for that, and then puts the average weight of each weight on this line graph here, which then is a trend over time showing how they're tracking, because the dough changes as they use, say, a batch. It might take 20 minutes to work through an entire batch, and as they go, the dough will change so that the divider will be getting lighter and lighter balls, and so they have to continually readjust as they go. So anyway, this gives them a sort of trending of how they're doing, and then when they see that their averages gets lower out of spec again, they can adjust on the fly in real time. They were doing this on paper before, but if you've ever written down, 10 numbers and then 10 numbers and then 10 numbers and 10 numbers on a piece of paper, it just looks like numbers. Wasn't doing them any good. So this does them a lot of good because they can visually see how they're tracking. So then the check weighers. We have these great electronic check weighers that had a wonderful screen on them that wasn't very useful to the operators because they couldn't see it. The packagers at the end of the line, they could see it. And if things got really out of whack, they might get on a radio and tell the operator, hey, these packages are overweight. So then he would have to dial down the size of the balls, of the dough balls, in order to make sure that the 20 minutes later, when the tortillas were finished out through the line, that he would get a reduction. But now the operator sees this screen in real time, and it's actually tracking every single package weight that comes out through the end of the line. He can see those as they go. So he's automatically making adjustments before they tell him that he's overweight. So he's already corrected the problem now. So that has really helped a lot, and it's made them feel so much more powerful. We thought there was going to be some resistance from the operators when we installed this new system. And we thought that some of them would not be very happy about these new control systems going in place. And it turns out that exactly the opposite was true. They were ecstatic. They were thrilled. They felt empowered, and they felt like they were really able to sort of own the solution more. So when we first installed the system, this is like a typical day, not a very good day, but it's a typical day. And these huge spikes you see here are problems with a piece of equipment called a counter stacker. There's an extra tortilla in each one of these packages, and there's one too few tortillas in each one of these. And about 6 months later, a typical graph looks like this. So when there is problems happening, they're getting on the radio or they're calling maintenance and they're fixing it much more because the operator can see it happening and he's not waiting for someone else to report the problem. So it's just a lot more responsive and a lot better if we can get rid of the paper and go to real time. So we use the InTouch Machine Edition to create panels, which there's one here, that we integrated with our existing waste scales, and we capture information regarding waste on these screens here, which then reports straight into the historian. And they can track the KPI in real time for waste, but they can also report on it later, figure out what's going on, maybe caused by a particular piece of equipment or a certain ingredient. So now for downtime. Before we installed this system, we were tracking downtime of 5 minutes or more. So when we installed this system, we made the judgment call that we should probably track shorter downtime. So we said anything of 2 minutes or more is now going to be categorized. And the operator gets a screen that pop up right here in the middle here that would say, you have a downtime. What is the reason for this downtime? And he has to categorize it, which it then tracks on this downtime list here on another screen. So great about this is that it's providing accurate timing, whereas before it was self-reported. Imagine a guy goes, well, I think this downtime's lasted for 5 minutes or so. I should probably write it down. But that wouldn't happen until the downtime was resolved. So that could have been 20 minutes, it could have been 30 minutes, but then he writes it down and he goes, how long was that? Well, he's just recollecting. He says, well, maybe it was 15 minutes. You know, a lot of times they underestimate it. So we found that we were able to really accurately track it because we report downtime mechanically, electronically in the machine. As soon as it stops, it starts tracking the timer. So it's a lot more accurate now. So we put big displays at the end of each line, which show this screen here, which gives access to a set of KPIs for package weights, downtime, waste, and production rate, and then the rework rate at the bottom here for each line in real time, so that all of the packaging staff can see them and management can just walk around and kind of like go, hey, Steve, you're out of whack. What's going on line 4, you know? So it just makes it a lot more convenient. And then we gave the managers an overview of every one of those screens all at once, so they can just sit at their desk and call this up. And if they click on this, say line 1 here, they click on it, it would go into the interface that would show them all these other screens like this, the checkware. It basically shows them this interface with this menu, and they're able to click on each one of the screens as they go through, and they can look in detail at the actual HMI of each one of the screens in read-only mode. So we also then have written a lot of reports using the data in the historian, and so we use the Excel plugin, and we access the raw data. We build detailed reports with Power Pivot, and we keep downtime charts, we keep waste, giveaway, rework, and of course, KPIs dashboard for management to look at every day. I mean, the big deal of why the project was a success was because we really improved the plant operations right away. Within 12 months, we returned 100% of the investment and actually made a profit on it. So, you know, we had to clearly define our goals and figure out exactly what we wanted out of the system. And then we put a lot of commitment behind making sure that the project stayed on task and on time. And, you know, everybody in the plant that was touched by this was dedicated to getting the solution rolled out efficiently and completely. So it was a great success. Now, we just believe that we've only scratched the surface. We've only just begun this process. Now that we're actually getting all this data, we know a lot more about what we don't know. And so we want to get a lot more sensors out there. We want to get a lot more visibility into what's happening in different parts of the line, so we can decrease, you know, inefficiencies all throughout other parts of the line that we currently don't have connected now. So we want to install OEE. We want to integrate this system with our vision systems, our visual inspection systems. We want to integrate this with our scheduling. So we would be able to have our operators have access to the schedule in real time and be able to track how they're doing to plan. And then, of course, integrate the consumption of raw materials with actual batch processes to measure material usage efficiency. So right now, our ERP system tracks material usage, and our plant system tracks the machines, but they don't talk together at all. So we would like to fix that. Thank you very much.